Excuse me, is this the reading room?
Yes, I'm Saad Manzoor.
And I'm Travis Howard.
This is Reading Room Talk. Thank you for pressing play.
Yeah, welcome.
Welcome. And today, we are radiologists, but we're about to be talking to a psychiatrist, a real doctor, real medical
On the front line.
expert.
Yes.
We have Asha Patton-Smith here with us today. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for being here with us. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm
Thank
excited.
you so much for having me. It's so funny that you said you're talking to a real doctor, because a lot of people don't even realize that psychiatry is a part of medicine. So that we actually went to medical school.
Yeah.
That is correct. That's correct. Yeah, same thing.
We say I went to medical school, just so you're aware.
That's so true.
We have the same issue in radiology. It's the same thing. It's like we don't, we do the same thing. But take us back to medical school, though. Tell us, when you were in medical school, what was your toughest class or rotation in medical school?
It had to be probably human anatomy. In that first year. I am a great memorizer, but visual spatial things are sometimes really challenging for me. And so for me, and I had anatomy, first of all, just dealing with the cadavers, and all of that process. And I felt like
fun times.
I felt like on the test, they were, always it was, because the human body is a beautiful thing, but each body is different, right?
Yeah.
And, the human body doesn't necessarily read the book. So sometimes it would be like, gosh, on my cadaver, it looked this way, but it's so different on this other cadaver. So I remember I went to Eastern Virginia Medical School.
EVMS, shout out.
Yep, in Norfolk, Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And there were 100 of us in the class, and there were 10 African Americans in the class. There were 10 of us. And we were a very close group, and we all kind of studied together. And so I just remember being in that cadaver lab for, sometimes hours at a time, being determined that I was going to get completed with that class and pass it.
Yeah.
That was a tough one.
Got the formaldehyde all over you.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a situation, but it's good that you had some other African Americans in the class with you that you can bond with and kind of go through the whole situation with, because I mean, and hopefully, were there any other upperclassmen who are African Americans in your school as well, or?
There were, but our class was a class that had a relatively large number considering. So there were some upperclassmen. There were quite a few, but we really seemed to have kind of our own little group with a class within our class, even though we had, really the school itself is just a very supportive environment.
That's great to hear. That's so good.
It was they really worked hard to make sure, that everybody is included. And I think for me, it was a little bit different because I chose the school for two reasons. One, I'm from Hampton Roads, so I went to high school in Portsmouth, Virginia.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I was coming back home from Xavier University of Louisiana, which is in New Orleans, which is where I went to college.
Oh, that's like African American Doctor University.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. We know all about XU. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's still an amazing place. So I was there, and then I decided to come back home because there was in-state tuition.
Yes.
And so, it was a school that was at that point one of the newer medical schools. Since then, there have been a few others, but it was one that really kind of put more of an emphasis on clinical. There wasn't a lot of research at the time. And, I said, hey, let me go back home and try this out. So it was really a great and supportive experience, because there were a lot of what would be considered non-traditional students, older students with families.
Yes.
So it was great. I really don't have anything negative to say overall about that experience.
That's wonderful. And tell us how you got to psychiatry, or an interest in psychiatry.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's a great question. So basically, I feel like since I was probably in utero, my mom spoke into me that I was going to be a doctor. So,
So good.
I knew nothing. I never thought of any other career. I didn't even know there were other options. I mean, there are pictures of me at 1 and 2 with doctor's kits. I mean, my mother knew what she was doing. She was going to have a doctor in her family.
Wow.
So I was going to be a pediatrician, and that was just that. And I was laser focused on that all the way up, through college. And that was my plan when I went into medical school. And I then went into the 3rd year, and I did my pediatric rotation. It may have been the 2nd or 3rd of the rotations. And I absolutely hated it.
Oh, wow.
It was, I mean, I just couldn't, I couldn't do the well baby checks. I just said, this is not for me.
Yeah.
And I panicked because here's someone that since, basically my whole life, I knew what I was going to do. And I get to the opportunity to really be able to do it. And when I was younger, I had, gone and helped in pediatric offices. I mean, the whole thing. And I get there and I just say, no, I just can't do it. So
wow.
Do you think that had anything to do with your mentors at the time or the attendings at the time? Or you really just, in the practice of it all, you thought, I can't see myself doing this for...
That's a great question. I think it was twofold. I think most of it was me because I was so laser focused and I wasn't open to other alternatives. So even if there were some kind of yellow flags in the mentors I was working with, it was something that I probably unconsciously and in some ways consciously ignored. I also think that from a mentorship standpoint, if you have someone that you're mentoring that seems to be so laser focused and kind of a done deal of, this is going to be a future pediatrician, I feel like in many ways, they kind of treat you differently than they would if you were just considering it as a possible option.
Yeah.
So, and again, this is all hindsight, right?
Yeah, it's always 2020.
It's always.
So I really think that was part of it. There was no one, it was just like, yeah, that's what you're going to do. Great. We'd love to have you. You'll be great. And so there weren't any real conversations about what that looks like as far as a lifestyle, as far as really being a part of it. And there's no perfect anything, right? So it's never a conversation of, these are some things that, are a challenge for me, or this is something, or you're super young, maybe you should look at, other options as well. So I think all of that kind of played into me, getting to this place and realizing I don't think I can do this for a large part of my life.
That makes sense. It's a double-edged sword because I think when you are so focused on becoming a pediatrician, that's kind of the fuel and motivation that you need to get through high school and get through undergrad and get into med school. So it's good from that standpoint. But then, at some point it is important to kind of open up your, mind about what you can do once you get into medicine, because it's such a huge field in general. Like even every specialty you can do has multiple subspecialties in it. So, it's
exactly.
You definitely have to.
You have to, I think what I try to do with the students and the people that I mentor now is share that part of my story. For a number of reasons. One, I think that where I am now, which is kind of, I guess, mid-career at this point, there are always kind of things that you kind of look back and not necessarily say regrets, but things maybe you would have considered differently. And I think that one part of kind of my journey was that I was always so laser focused. And that meant that there were probably other opportunities or other things that I just I wasn't aware of because I just knew what I was going to do.
Right.
And so I think sometimes with that, laser focused, which is not necessarily a bad thing, you miss other opportunities to really be able to grow and develop in different ways.
Yeah. Well, that's also why PEDS is a 6-week rotation. You got to go there and actually get some objective information about how like it will actually be, so that's the nice thing about like, doing the rotations is like, you can imagine yourself doing it and, seeing yourself doing it before you get there. But like, once you actually get, it's important to get the objective information, like, kind of realize, this is something I can do, something I can't do. And it's better than like being mid-career in something that you don't want to do and then realize I really didn't want to do this.
Oh, man.
Exactly.
And big ups to you for having the courage to actually think outside your path and pick something that I think will make you a happier physician.
Yeah, I mean, no, absolutely. So what happened was, I'm in that rotation. I'm saying, okay, this is not going to work. I talked to one of my mentors who's a pediatrician, just like, hey, this is not going to work. And she was the person that said, okay, well, don't panic. Because I really was, this is my whole life, right?
Exactly.
And she was the one that said, okay, you don't have to decide everything right away. Think about it. Let's go through the other rotations. And then let's see where we are. And psychiatry was actually my last rotation. I had no interest in being a psychiatrist. None.
We hear this so often in radiology.
Yes.
We talk to so many docs that are like, radiology was the last thing I wanted to use in rotation.
Exactly.
And here you go.
So I had no interest, or I didn't think I had any interest. And I said, okay, EVMS is really big on community medicine and primary care. So I said, okay, I can just be a family doctor. It'll be great. I'll have, the impact of, working with patients of all kinds and, running the gamut. So I'll go into primary care in that way and not just specifically with kids. It'll be great. And so I do this rotation. And I remember I had my first kind of one-on-one with a mentor at Norfolk State University. He worked there and taught. And then he also was a community psychiatrist, an African-American older gentleman who's since passed years ago.
What was his name?
And his name was Lucius Catchings.
Lucius Catchings, shout out. Lucius Catchings.
He really was just an amazing community psychiatrist that was very old school, and he had, just a private practice. And he just sat and talked. He was a psychoanalyst, so he wasn't just doing medication, but he was doing really long-term psychotherapy with patients of all kinds.
Oh, that's cool.
And I found that to be so fascinating, because here's someone that is not getting out of the stethoscope, is not doing any type of procedure. All you're doing is talking and being able to get a lot of information from this connection. And I just said, this is what I want to do.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
And
That's
I remember
so good.
telling my dad, and he was like, what? I said, I think I want to go to psychiatrist. Like, you want to do what?
I forgot to ask, any physicians in your family?
No, I have
wow.
physicians in my family. My dad and mom are both PhDs. Dad was in education. My mom started in education and then ended in municipal government. Oh, wow. So I didn't have, I don't have any, I still don't have any MDs in my family.
Wow.
And so
they're probably like, why are you dropping out of med school?
Is this really what you want to do?
Oh man, yeah. They had dodged you a pediatrician in the womb.
Exactly.
So you got to do what?
Exactly. And so I kind of went in with the premise of, wow, what do I really like about medicine, and what kind of made me want to get into medicine in the first place, other than my very early exposure to it with no other options. And a lot of that was the relationship that you establish with patients. And really, I feel like in mental health especially, you can be able to really establish those relationships in a meaningful way, and those connections in a meaningful way, and help people become more connected to themselves, which is just a gift in general. And so
Absolutely.
that's kind of been the premise of what kind of I have tried to not only create within myself, but also help my patients and families create that for themselves as well.
Oh, that's
Wow.
wonderful. I have so much respect for our psychiatrists and our mental health, workforce. And, I think we all know and feel it. The incidence of anxiety and depression in our society has just, I guess we're more aware of it, but
It's always been there.
it's always been there. But I have to feel like it's definitely the incidence has increased. And then with the pandemic and isolation and
Hmm.
loneliness, it's just, my hat's off to you. I really am just so impressed with the things that you're doing and the things you'll continue to do
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
within our organization. And so I just think it's great.
Thank
Oh, it
you.
really is. It really
Yeah.
is. And like, you found your way back into peds basically, through psychiatry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it worked out. Again, I didn't know anything about child psychiatry, and I was in my third year of my residency at GW
Oh yeah, shout out
in
GW.
DC. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I wasn't quite sure I wanted to work with adults, and had done just a quick rotation in child and adolescent psychiatry. And I think one of the things that at one point I wanted to be a pediatrician, so I love working with children and adolescents anyway, and young adults as well. But
Hmm.
also, I felt like a lot of the issues that I worked in therapy with a lot of my adult patients when I was in residency were things that started when they were much younger. A lot of them
Of
were it was
course.
in their childhood.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so I felt like there was a part of me that was saying, okay, well, maybe I can make a bigger impact in working with kids much younger to hopefully kind of divert certain paths. That
I
was
can
Hmm.
kind of
see
one
that.
part of me.
Yeah.
And the other part of me was that, wow, I mean, what happens to a lot of kids that, become adults, what happens so early on can really change just the flow of life
Hmm.
if
Hmm.
we in many ways kind of allow it to move in that direction. And so I felt like there was a frustration sometimes with patients that were stuck and didn't really know how to get unstuck,
Right.
and just trying to figure out how to work with that and understand them from the point where they really are, but having them relate to where they were when they got stuck so that they can begin to move through.
Right.
And it's very difficult to do. Um, and I felt like, okay, since I do love working with children and adolescents, why don't I do a child fellowship? So I went to Children's National Medical Center, also in Washington, D.C.,
Wonderful.
and did
Shout
my
out.
child fellowship. Yeah. So, and that was another amazing experience.
Oh, that's so nice. That's amazing. I mean, you were able to like kind of blaze your own path, just from learning what you liked and what you may have not liked, but you're able
Yeah,
to find something that really like caters to like what makes you happy, which is very, very important in
Yeah.
exactly.
medicine. So
Yeah, and I could see how having that longevity or that continuity of care with, with a child or adolescent, and to see
Hmm.
them prosper as an adult or to
Oh my
overcome,
goodness.
I
mhm.
can. That's probably so rewarding.
Super
It's
fulfilling. Yeah,
super
definitely.
fulfilling. So that's a great opportunity that you
It,
have
it
there.
really is.
How?
Just in general, I think we as adults don't quite understand how important it is to just try to be there for kids.
Mm,
And you
Hmm.
just don't know how you impact them in ways that you don't even know.
All right.
And kids and teenagers are very intuitive because they're closer to the source. They're younger. They don't
Yep.
have as many things happen to them that kind of cloud their ability to really intuitively relate.
mhm.
Yeah.
And they also are very insightful, and so they know if you genuinely care
Oh
Yeah.
just
yeah.
by your energy. You don't even have to say you generally care, right? They
Mhm.
Yeah.
know.
Mhm.
They can
So
tell.
they can tell. And so I love that part of them. And what we try to do is foster and allow that part not to go away,
Just honest
but
and
to
Exactly.
pure.
be able to help shape us and balance us and use move forward. And so, just small interactions with kids can make a huge difference, whether, whatever field you're in, which is so important.
I watched a video of you, and you talked about a young kid who was in school, and the parents were just racking their brains. Are you being bullied, or is there a problem at school? Like, you're thinking all these things, and it just turns out the kid just didn't want to have the wrong answer if he was called by the teacher. And I find myself, even with my son, thinking like, are you okay? Was somebody mean to you today? Or, like all these things. It makes you take a step back and really think about a child's perspective.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's so true.
the things
and
we
that's
don't
what
even
I
think
always
about.
tell my parents and my caregivers, it from the child lens and not,
from your
directly
lens.
From your lens, because your lens is different than anybody else's, right? Especially different than your child. Sometimes it's just as simple as, I was just fearful, or it's just as simple as I didn't want to upset you, or I thought you'd be upset. And we're thinking all these other things from our parent lens that may or may not be their reality.
Right.
Exactly. Well, that's super important. I mean, I think just learning like the basic psychiatry is basically parenting. Like you can't necessarily, you can't really like control what the kids do, but you can control your reaction. You can control like what you can do for them, and hope, and they're like inherently programmed to like want to please their parents. So you definitely want to just be there for them, like you said. I mean, they're gonna try their best. Like they're gonna try their best.
Yes. And they want to do well. They want to excel. They want to do well, and they want you to be proud of them. I mean, that's innately where they are.
Exactly. No, that's
So I want to ask you, how do you stay motivated when you do have those difficult cases? I mean, I can hear this wonderful energy just coming off. It's like,
yes,
it's just great. But I said, I know she's human. She has to have difficult cases, horrible situations. How do you stay up? How do you
that's a great question, and the answer kind of varies, which I think is a positive thing, because what we need at any given time changes, right? I think that I love relationships with people and establishing those relationships. I work really, really hard to try to be, as much as possible, a non-judgmental, open, blank slate, which is very challenging to be, because we all have our own experiences, and we all are able to understand those experiences in different ways. And we know that our experiences affect how we react to other people, and what triggers we may or may not have, and what biases we have, whether they be conscious or unconscious. So
exactly.
I think because of that, I have always been aware of that vulnerability, just in myself and anyone else. And so trying to create balance has looked differently in different kind of points in my life. But now yoga has been something that's been very helpful for me.
Yoga, okay.
To relax.
Love it, yeah.
Yes.
It's been just kind of something that has allowed me to consistently try to move to a state of balance, both mental and physical. I exercise a lot. I love to walk. Walking is an amazing exercise. You don't have to run. You don't have to bike. Those are all great. But
yes, walking is exercise. Yes.
Walking is exercise.
In nature. I
in
love
nature.
it. Yes.
Exactly. It's beautiful. And just recently, I've been trying to build my meditative practice as well, because that is really helpful in just renewing things. And then I think I understand my role in any dynamic professionally, and understand that I can only do what I can do.
There you go.
So when I'm done with the day, I'm done with the day.
Yeah.
I'm not replaying or wondering, or what could have been done differently, or I wonder what she's doing right now. I hope she's safe. I have to trust that, okay, I'm done with the day. I've done the best I can today, and everything else the universe will create it in the way it's meant to be created, and then start the next day. So I think that has kind of allowed for consistency and an awareness that it's easy to get burned out. It's easy to be overwhelmed. And so each day is a new opportunity. Each moment is a new opportunity to kind of reinvent, rebalance, and, be able to have energy to move forward.
Oh, that's great.
That's
You
great.
found a way to cleanse, shift the focus, shut it down, leave work at work. Those are all great pearls that we all try.
For everyone in life. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. So I had a question for you. So I know we mentioned, Xavier in Louisiana. So can you tell us about your high school experience and then how you ended up choosing Xavier?
Okay. So high school. So I went to high school in Portsmouth, Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
That's in Hampton Roads, 757.
All right.
And I went to a predominantly Black high school, IC Norcom High School in Portsmouth. And I came there from a predominantly white environment. I was in Catholic school pretty much my whole life. I came to Portsmouth in 6th grade. Before that, I was in Petersburg. Before that, I was in Hampton. Before that, I was in Bloomington, Indiana, which is where I was born. All of that was related to my dad going through his training and ultimately becoming a PhD. So he trained at Indiana University in Bloomington, and then he got his first job as a professor at Hampton University in Hampton, and then went to Virginia State University in Petersburg. And then he actually ended up going to William and Mary in Williamsburg, and we moved to Portsmouth. My mother was at that point director of Parks and Recreation for the city.
Okay.
Oh, very cool.
So I'm at Norcom High School. So I went from an all-white Catholic environment to this completely all-Black school.
That's a change.
It's a huge change. And what was interesting is that the school I was at, Portsmouth Catholic High School at the time, was closing. And so I went there for 8th grade, and that was it, because they didn't have enough kids. They didn't have the attendance, so they closed.
Gotcha.
And so there was no other Catholic high school in my city, so it was having to go through a tunnel and go over to Norfolk or try Norcom.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'll go to Norcom. And for me, that was a really interesting experience. Because here's from one that is Black. I am Black. I'm African American. And had never been in school with an environment where everyone looked like me. And the majority of the teachers looked like me. The majority of the administration looked like me. And this is a public school. I was in private school my whole life.
Yeah.
And so now you have people from all walks of life, right? They're coming in. And it was eye-opening for me because I had been raised in a relatively sheltered environment with people of color. I mean, I have obviously Black friends. My family, allowed me to be in a diverse environment for the most part, but it was still predominantly Black. But socioeconomically, it was middle class. Right.
Yeah.
And so I go into this environment with people from all different socioeconomic statuses, all different home environments. And I really was like, wow, a lot of people live differently than me.
Yes.
Right? I know that.
Yes.
When you're in this, inner city school, you're like, okay, this is really interesting.
What do your parents say about it when you reflect, when you ask them, like, what? So you switched it up, Mom and Dad. What were you thinking?
So what's so interesting is that things have evolved, but at the time, the school, it has a lot of history, and it was kind of a magnet school. And so my mom, who she's from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. She was all Black her whole life, basically, as far as education is concerned. My dad, Frankfort, Kentucky, Catholic school his entire life until college, all white. So I think, what happened was my dad was like, well, that's what she wants to do, I guess. It's easier for us because we don't have to transport her, further. But my mom was gung-ho, like, no, this is the place you need to be. I had an environment like this when I was in high school, and it was the best thing that happened to me. And I really feel like for me, it was great. I mean, it really allowed me to grow and be more comfortable with myself. I don't think I realized, even though I come from a very, I think, very stable and relatively balanced home life that had a lot of Black role models. I mean, my mom and dad had amazing friends that did amazing things and have amazing friends since childhood that I still am friends with. But
your father, I was gonna say your father was at 2 HBCUs, so
exactly. But having those Black teachers that I'd never had a Black teacher ever.
Wow.
And so having Black teachers and Black administrators and just the pride in the school and the history was something that I think shaped me in ways that I didn't realize. So when it was time for me to go to college, I didn't look at anything but HBCUs.
Oh, that's tight. Very cool.
Because I said, okay, I want to stay in an environment that is supportive with people that look like me, because that's important to me.
Absolutely.
And that's been a huge place for me to grow.
Absolutely.
Oh man! And that,
shout out, Mom.
I'm telling you, mom had the vision and the experience and the vision.
Exactly.
Oh man, that the way you talk about it, like when I applied to medical schools, that's what I was thinking. I want that experience. I want that. And I think on some level, you just know it's going to inspire you to greatness and to give you that esteem that maybe you feel like you might have been lacking in other situations.
Exactly.
So that's great.
And for me, I want to go to Spelman. So I was going to go to Spelman. It was going to be great. I was probably going to marry someone that went to Morehouse, and it was going to be the best thing ever, right?
Spell House, exactly.
But Spelman wasn't really open to giving a lot of scholarships. And so, there was a bottom line in my house as far as what financially my parents were going to do. And my dad, who I said was in higher education, was like, hey, a friend of mine is a provost at Xavier University. I think you should check it out. So I'd never heard of the school. I'm not really a big heat person. So I don't know if I want to go to New Orleans. Like, it's hot there. They have hurricanes. Not my thing. And so my dad said, well, why don't we just go down there and check it out? And I went down there. We went for a visit. This was in my junior year of high school. And I stepped on the campus, and again, everyone's looking like me. So we have that part, HBCU, beautiful. But everyone was interested in medicine.
Factory. That's the factory right there.
You're right.
It's like, wait a minute, what? Everyone's majoring in biology? This is great. How is this possible? So I didn't seal the deal at that visit, but as they kept sending me stuff, and I kept hearing more about the school, and again, I knew I wanted to go into medicine. I just thought, hey, this would be the right fit. And when I got a scholarship, my dad was like, okay, that's where you're going, whether you want to or not. And again, another
dad's turn. Exactly.
Another amazing experience that I really think was just pivotal in, shaping me to who I am now.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing.
Oh, man. I know.
That's amazing.
And so now you are a child psychiatrist. Can you speak to some mentors or so in particular, are there any DC child psychiatrists that might have inspired you along your path?
I think where I really kind of got that support was during fellowship. So Dr. Lisa Cullins, who's still in the area, shout out to Dr. Cullins, who's now at National Institute of Mental Health, doing great things, was our kind of assistant residency training director, Black female, killing it.
Love it.
And she, was just the epitome of what I wanted to be. And she worked with, at that point, there was a program there called DC Kids. So it was the foster care kids, and just did an amazing job in managing that program. We rotated through there and worked with kids, then the foster care system. And I think that for me, I could then see myself in a role of an attending, psychiatrist, see myself as being comfortable as a Black woman and still allowing my Blackness to show and be confident in myself. So I think she was probably one of the major people that still stands out to me as someone that was just so comfort and relaxed in her own skin. And she just exuded such excitement and such she has such an amazing magnetic personality that, I mean, she was just great, and she still is. And then Dr. Adelaide Robb, who's now the chair at Children's, is probably one of the smartest women that I know.
Wow.
And is still someone that was just so cerebral and yet so personable with her patients and so confident in her knowledge base. I think those two, I mean, there are tons of others, but those two are two that really stand out at Children's, who still has an amazing program there. I can't say enough good things about my fellowship experience. And it really kind of helped me hone in on skills that I think I intuitively had, but to be able to hear from other people that were observing me of the skills that I had, but how I needed to kind of work to take it to the next level and build other skills, really was something that it is just helped me even today.
Well, I say you did that. Those skills, the patient testimonials are like, it screams all those qualities that you love in those mentors. You go through you go through the patient testimonials for you, and they're saying the same things. Compassionate,
exactly.
Works hard, a great advocate for you. So that's great. That's great training and mentorship. Again, we said it before with other interviews. Great mentorship and someone you can relate to and talk to.
It makes a huge difference.
That's everything. Yeah.
The one thing I would say is that I didn't have to really, thankfully, seek out mentors. It just kind of, I was in programs and I was with people that were always supportive and were, kind of always there if I needed them. I think it's important, though, because that's not always the case, right? That doesn't always happen. It doesn't always fall into place. And so, for people that I talk to and younger people, seek out mentors. If there's someone that you see or you've experienced, hey, if you know them, let them know, hey, I'd love to talk with you. I have this interest. Or, if you find someone on social media, contact them, connect with them. Yes. You never know. Right?
Yeah.
Because you don't always, mentors aren't always just kind of put in front of you or drop there to say, oh, okay, I'm going to be your mentor. You have to establish those relationships. And sometimes you have to look hard to find someone that is moving in a direction that you either want to be at or have some qualities that you want to emulate. And you'd be surprised when you reach out to people how responsive they usually are.
Exactly. Yes. You might have to send a second email. Exactly. You might have to send a second text. They might be busy and they might have seen it. It's okay. It's just real life. Go ahead, put yourself out there.
Right. Exactly.
That's so true. And I was going to say, I feel like, you kind of shorted the system as well, because you actually chose places where like you felt like you were going to be able to find those mentors, which was, great on your part, So, that's also important.
That's a great point. And that's the other thing. I think, there's the right place for everyone, right? But I think sometimes people look at, okay, well, I want to go to a big name.
Exactly.
Or, I want to, go to a place that sounds impressive. And that's fine. You can go to that school in Boston or, any other school you like, any Ivy League, wherever you want to go and wherever you think you need to go, there's a place for that. But I think for me, the main thought was, okay, I want to get the best practical education because clinically, that's what you fall on, right? I want to be, someone that works clinically. It's fine. Academic medicine is beautiful. It's fine. I just did not see myself in that space. And I want to go to the most supportive environment for me, which may not be the big name or the place that sounds super impressive. And so I think it's just important to just keep all of those things in mind, because sometimes those things connect and sometimes they don't. And if you're good at what you do, confident in what you do, there's a place for you anywhere.
Exactly.
It doesn't necessarily mean that because you didn't go to a big name school, you can't be great.
That's great.
Not at all. And you'll rise to the top. Yeah. Like if you find the right environment, you'll rise. So
Exactly.
I love it. Travis, any more questions? I know you got some questions, Travis.
Oh, I could talk for days, but I don't want to keep the great doctor. You should, I don't. Yes, you've answered them. The mentorship thing and having the courage. I just hear a bunch of courage. It's a thread of courage that you had throughout your path, and
yes,
I want to encourage all of our listeners who may be thinking of making a change or pursuing medicine or psychiatry, radiology, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they've gained something from this talk, and they can aspire to do what they want to do. Yeah.
Absolutely. And how can they get in contact with you, Dr. Patton-Smith?
So I am not actually on social media, believe it or not, and that can be another conversation for another day.
You'll be coming back to talk to us about this.
Please do.
Yes. I think the short answer to that is that when we're looking at balance, and again, that can be for another day, but when we're looking at balance, I found that I wasn't able to consistently keep balance while being on social media. So quite a few years ago now, I just decided to kind of step back. So the best way to get in contact with me is through you guys, and you guys have my information and can move.
Exactly.
We got it.
And you can
love it.
And we're on at Reading Room Talk on all social media platforms and on Gmail. Right. So please, if you have any questions for Dr. Asha Patton-Smith, let us know, and we will definitely put you in contact. So
please do. There's just one more thing I want to add that I think is important for everyone. I mean, medicine is a extremely wonderful career. And it's one that is so needed and so appreciated. But I think there is sometimes this thought that you have to be the smartest person, or, you have to be a person that has a lot of money to be a doctor. Really what you need is to have your eye on the prize and be disciplined and make sure that you are very clear in what you want to do and what your path is. And be determined, no matter what, to continue to move forward in that path. So, doctors are not always the smartest people in the room, but they are in many ways the most disciplined, because it really is a marathon. It's not that sprint. It's a long process. But just like anything else, you're taking it step by step. So if, I have some kids say, well, I want to be a doctor, but, I added up all I have to do to be all those years, you just take it one day at a time. You're taking it one step at a time. We need more doctors of color in every single specialty. Please consider it as an option, and don't let your own thoughts or anyone else outside of you stand in your way if it's something you're really interested in.
That's
I love it.
True.
That's so true. Absolutely. And we need them, and they'll be coming. They're coming. They're coming. I think, I think, kids are smart. Like if they decide that they want to do it, they'll find a way to do it. And we just want to make sure that people know that, you can do this. You can definitely do this. You don't have to be perfect to do this. You just have to be disciplined. You have to work hard. It will happen for you.
It will. Right. Absolutely.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate you taking the time, and we're going to have you back. We didn't even ask you, but we're going to have you back. So
please come on back.
Excellent. Thank you guys for tuning in, and till next time, stay low and keep firing.